Okay, welcome. You're in the battleground. It's Monday, 27 June, year of our Lord 2022. Let's go right to New York City, where there is massive breaking news today from the New York Supreme Court. Joe Borelli is the minority leader on the New York City Council. Joe Borelli, thank you. Joe, you represent, is it Staten Island? Is that where you're from?
Yes, sir. Beautiful Staten Island. Thank you.
So walk us through what happened. I think there were 850,000 essentially non-American citizens that were going to be allowed to vote in New York City elections, municipal elections.
Right. So 800,000 people potentially would have been enfranchised by this law. If we play that out with our normal voting rates, we know that would mean there might be more than 100 or even 200,000 more votes issued in New York by basically by people who are here in this country legally, although not entitled to vote for the mayor or the city council or our county leaders, our borough presidents, as we call them.
I mean, this is so stunning. In fact, we played, I think a couple of weeks ago, it was the congressman, I think Mike Johnson from Louisiana, lighting up a New York City congressman about this very issue. Walk us through it. How did this even get to be a possibility? How did who thought up and who pushed as a good idea that to have non-American citizens that are living in the United States actually vote in our elections? Who came up with the idea of enfranchising these folks?
Well, it's the professional protester class. It's the advocate groups that represent immigrant voting blocs in New York City. And by the way, opposition to this has long been bipartisan. Mayor de Blasio and previous Mayor Mike Bloomberg had long actually taken the position that this bill that's been around for many years, is unconstitutional according to our state constitution and our plain English reading of New York State statute. Even Bill de Blasio had this position for many, many years. And yet Democrats in the last few weeks of the city council's term, in the last few weeks of Bill de Blasio's term, basically said, what the heck, we're going to give in to these far left advocates, and they rammed it through the city council. Another fun fact. More Democrats actually voted against this than there are Republicans even on the city council. There's actually a lot of moderate Democrats who thought this was a bridge too far and who accurately realized that they would be diluting their own voices within their own neighborhoods, within their own precincts, if this goes through. It did go through, but today we have a big win.
So tell me about how to get organized and actually take it to the Supreme Court. Who was in back of it? What were the arguments, and why did the Supreme Court rule today that this is unconstitutional in the state of New York?
So basically, we had the support of the RNC, which we're very thankful for. We had the support of our state Republican Party, our chairman, Nick Langworthy. We had the support of basically every Republican elected official in the city of New York. And it doesn't sound like there's many of us. There's only about 8 or 9 of us. And we filed a lawsuit here in Richmond County, which is Staten Island. The judge basically took the plain English reading of one of our state statutes, which essentially says that you must be a citizen of the United States to vote in city, county, town, and village elections. Some states, as we know, are going through and trying to implement these type of citizen voting statutes. Blue New York had actually had one of these on the books for a generation. Our state constitution also says that citizenship is required to vote. And even the third measure basically said if you wanted to change any way that someone was elected in a municipality, you had to go through a public referendum. They didn't do that at the very least. So we brought these claims to the Supreme Court, Richmond County, which is the trial level court in New York State. I know it sounds silly. Supreme Court is actually the trial level court in this state. But our judge, a Republican judge from Staten Island, basically sided with us. I believe the Democrats would appeal it. I think they still will lose on appeal. But what New Yorkers have to be more fearful of is that now this will go to Albany, where the state legislature might decide to push this. And if we have someone like Kathy Hochul win in November, she certainly will be swayed by these advocates on the far left.
What are these advocates when it's a plain letter, black and white in the state constitution? You have to be an American citizen. What did they argue? How did they think they were going to win in court on this when they first passed it?
Well, they basically believed that they would go to a liberal judge somewhere in New York City, and that judge will pull something out of the sky to ensure they win. Remember, some of our judges in New York at the trial level are elected. So these are people who are going before the same electorate as most of these woke politicians. They thought that they would get a favorable judge. And in this case, they didn't. We brought the case in Staten Island, where we actually, as Republicans, we actually win the majority of judgeships. Now, I'm trying to make Staten Island its own city. I'm a Staten Island secessionist. But unfortunately, we are still a part of the city. We are still plaintiffs from New York City in Staten Island. So we got, luckily, a Republican judge to hear the case. And that certainly was a factor. Getting a fair hearing on this in New York City was no easy matter. And thankfully, we did. But the reality is they just didn't care. Again, Bill de Blasio, who ultimately signed this law at the end of 2021, for the previous 7 years of his administration, had openly admitted every time this bill came up for a hearing, his administration said, we support you on this, but we can read the law and see it's written there. It's written there in stone. It's as plain for anyone to see who can read. And basically, in the last month of their term, they said, we don't care. We're just going to throw a bone to our far left supporters who've been backing us for these many years, and we're going to pass the bill nonetheless.
Walk us through the appellate process. Where does this go from here?
So it'll go to the second department. There's only, I think, 2 Republican judges on a panel of, I believe, 12 or 13. So it might be a more uphill battle to get that panel of judges. I believe, though, that with the election coming up next year, where candidates have to file petitions to get on the ballot by February, I think we've already stopped it from the next round of municipal elections. Before that period of time, our Board of Elections would have to vote to new voter rolls. They'd have to vote on new registration cards. They'd have to set up a new system to coordinate how people could vote in municipal elections, but not in state and federal elections. All that would take time and effort. So I don't believe that unless the appeal is done in record time, the left will be able to appeal and win in order to affect the next round of municipal voting. The problem, though, again, is that the far left is growing to some degree in urban New York City. We're making some gains in Nassau County and Suffolk County and the Hudson Valley. That's why I think someone like Lee Zeldin or Andrew Giuliani could potentially beat Kathy Hochul. But in urban New York City, we're losing ground quite a bit. I don't think the issue goes away, and I think there's now going to be tremendous pressure on the Albany legislature and the governor to change the law. Even I have to admit, Democrats could change this law to allow non-citizen voting if they go about it the right and legal way by ramming it through the state legislature. So that's our next fight. That's what we really have to focus on.
That'll come at a huge political cost, though. That's the point. Okay, Joe, how do people follow you? How do they follow this? Because people are very interested in this case. How do people follow it? How do they follow you?
Yep, join me, josephborelli.com, or you can find me on Twitter and Instagram, Joe Borelli NYC. I keep a pretty fun feed, so please follow.
It runs a little hot. Well, last question. New York City is the greatest city in the world. Why would you want to succeed from New York City?
The city of Staten Island would actually be the 35th largest in the country. It would be, we have more real estate value than similar cities size of Atlanta and Miami. So we could afford it. We would be a center right leaning city, and we'd probably be one of the safest in the country. So we would do great on our own. I know my friends in Buckhead, Georgia are trying to do the same thing. They're trying to secede from Atlanta. Devolved government at all levels is a good thing when people are closer to the ground. We have a city that's bigger in population and budget than Switzerland, and we're controlled by one progressive Democrat, and that's not fair for my constituents.
Joe Borelli, hang in there, sir. Look forward to following up with you on all of this. Joe Borelli, Staten Island, head of the minority part of the New York City Council about this non-citizen voting. Okay. The administrative state, we talked about it this morning. This is where the fight is. It's going to be intense. I don't think anywhere it comes up more, and it's in your grill, and I think it shocked people, than medical freedom. So I have Naomi Wolf, James Roguski. James, walk us through the very important hearing tomorrow, the future framework. You were one of the first guys. You were the first guy on the World Health Organization and World Health Assembly. You were one of the first here. You're the one that's rallied the troops to get everybody focused on it. Tell us what's going to happen tomorrow, specifically how you got people lined up to actually, I guess, give testimony or make public comment. And then what should people do and where should people go to make sure they follow this?
Okay, tomorrow, the FDA pretty much all day long is going to be meeting with their vaccine advisory committee to decide what is going to be in the next round of boosters that are scheduled for the fall. They're not giving up on this. One of the options that is missing from their selection is to stop doing these boosters. Now, interestingly enough, they actually have to admit that the boosters are not working in order to argue that they need to change them. And so they've actually very clearly done that. There's evidence available to the public on Walgreens.com. I mean, if you go on their database, they show that people who have been triple boosted more than 5 months ago, are 50% more likely to test positive for COVID as people who've never been injected. And so clearly what they have promised would, Biden said, oh, if you get these shots, you're not going to get COVID. Well, actually, now you're 50% more likely to get COVID. So they lied to us in the past. What they're doing now is actually the death of science. They're really between a rock and a hard place because they cannot see into the future as to determine, what variants are going to be, active in the fall. They have studied the Omicron, which is the version of Omicron, is now extinct. It's not circulating anymore. And they absolutely know that. And the biggest issue is that they've changed the definition of the word vaccine to the point where I would like to do a shout out to any lawyer in the country who could just read Title 26, Section 4132. The definition in the law of a vaccine is one that prevents disease. On September 2nd, the CDC changed the definition. So every injection that the CDC and others have been pushing since September 2nd is only meeting the criteria of triggering an immune response. So Moderna did a study with 334 people, and they saw that their injection with an extinct virus triggers an immune response. Pfizer did 5 small studies, each with about 175 people, to show pretty much the same thing. If we inject you with an extinct virus, it'll trigger antibodies to that extinct virus. Well, that is not meeting the legal definition of a vaccine. And I would love to speak with some lawyers who feel that they have a case to remove the liability protection because these are not legally vaccines.
Hang on. Yeah, we're going to get to all that. Let me just, once again, technically, why is the FDA having this tomorrow? Is it something that's required? And why did they open up for public comment? And who do you actually have? That's, I think you've gotten 7 people to sign up. So number one, why are they actually having this tomorrow? Is there some mandate they have to have it? Some regulation that says they have to have it? And why do they have a public comment section?
Well, there are regulations that they're supposed to, have public comment and then respond to the public comment. They haven't provided very much in the way of information and details until like Saturday morning. We have, I believe, 8 people who are going to be commenting. So, that ought to be very entertaining to get the public's feedback on it. The reason, really, quite frankly, that they're doing this is that the drug companies have already started manufacturing certain booster shots. And if they don't get the okay to do it, their concern is that they're going to have difficulty having anything ready for the fall because they actually said in the last meeting that they are working with the manufacturer's timeframe. So there's no legal requirement that they have this meeting. It's really, they're in the hands, in the pockets of drug companies who want to get into production so they can sell more injections in the fall, even though, number one, they have no idea what kind of variants are going to be circulating in the fall. And all of the studies that they've done are with things that are extinct. Yep.
Okay, hang on for 1 second. You stick with us. Let's bring in Naomi Wolf. Naomi, help me out here. We had Toby Rogers with his great piece that was up on Brownstone Institute. He says this is personification of regulatory capture. With all the research you've been doing with the War Room Posse, over at Daily Clout with all the, I think it's 28 or 29 mini reports you have now. Everything you've brought up about questioning about these vaccines, how, I think the audience, the big question is, why are they driving this forward? Why are they driving it forward this time? And why are they actually having this meeting with public comments tomorrow? Is there some milestone? Is there something they need to do to go to the next step to get these vaccines or these boosters ready for the fall?
Okay, all important questions. So I have checked with a number of lawyers, including our key legal teams. And in fact, the pressure to vaccinate little children, which we've talked about, and the pressure to wrap all of this in an emergency use authorization does protect them from liability. And I think we're seeing that the impact we're having, and there's been a legal letter going out that I can't characterize. I went out on today, and also a subpoena that went out, or a demand for a grand jury inquiry of the CDC, which is a different agency but related, which has been received and is being responded to. All of this multi-front legal pressure, I think, is having an effect. Moderna just asked for more sweeping protections from liability. So I don't understand all the details of why they're meeting tomorrow. I think Mr. Roguski is correct that, until they're dragged into court and put in jail, they're going to keep making as much money as they can and trying to do it with as many legal protections as they can. But I believe it's twofold. I do want to talk about new findings that Dr. Flower has about the trials for children, if I may.
Yes. This will make yes, please. This will make my head blow up even more, and then we bring Dr. Flowers in. I'm still don't understand. There's something up here. Yeah. They're having this for a reason, so that's why I definitely want to get all the information out, because I think people will say, hey, hang on. If all this information coming out, why are we doing this right now? Why is the FDA having this, and why are they having the drug guys involved in it? And why are we doing anything except saying full stop? Let's look at all the research and information Dr. Flowers has and Naomi Wolf has, and let's try to protect our children until we go to the next level. So yes, have at it.
Yeah, no, just I don't want to anticipate Dr. Flowers because it's his work I was going to announce. I'm so glad he's joining us. But I did want to say, again, I'm not a lawyer, but in addition to the liability issue, trying to wrap everything in the EUA, I do believe that these kind of public comment periods and these kind of public meetings tick boxes so that they can say they did due diligence. So if right now they brought everything to a screaming halt and said, we're so sorry, we've made a horrible mistake, we're killing people, we're injuring people, we've hurt children, it doesn't work, Pfizer knew it didn't work, Moderna probably knows it didn't work. I think their lawyers are probably advising them against that, because that's pretty much an admission of guilt and can be used against them. I do want to say one more important thing that you guys broke this story about, which is that, remember, it must be 3 months ago, we talked about how the Pfizer documents showed, and the War Room Daily Clout volunteers found this, that Moderna's injection of mRNA lipid nanoparticles and spike protein was 100 micrograms, and Pfizer was 30 for adults, and that the internal documents showed Pfizer dropping the 100 micrograms in its own internal trials due to its reactogenicity, because visibly on the tables, the adverse events for that high an amount of these dangerous ingredients was causing damage. Well, there's been a big story that just came out that Moderna's that the 100 microgram dose has 3 times the number of adverse events that the 1/3 the dose has. And this absolutely confirms the screaming and yelling that I've been doing, that you've supported me in doing, about the issue of dosages. That it's not rocket science. If you give a 6-month-old baby the same dose you're going to give a almost 5-year-old, that's dangerous. If you give an 11-year-old on the last day of her birthday and she's 90 pounds, the same dose you're giving a kid twice her size, that's dangerous. And so a new study has confirmed that, in fact, the higher doses correlate to more adverse events by exactly a factor of how high the higher doses are.
Listen, can we bring in Dr. Flowers for a second? I remember you broke that on the show a couple of months ago, and at the time, of course, MSNBC and these guys say, "Oh no, these guys have the math wrong." Dr. Flowers, can we bring you on to join our group here? Talk to me about your latest research. What are you finding? Because I'm still stunned, given everything Naomi and the team have been putting forward. That a couple of weeks ago, Roguski and Toby come to us and say, no, they're going to continue to check boxes. They're going to have these meetings. Dr. Flowers.
Yeah, so I can't take all the credit here because, after all, what happened was that Robert F. Kennedy actually wrote a letter to the FDA before the meeting and actually provided all the data and reminders to these guys on the committee that what they were doing effectively was criminal. The fact that we all know that children very rarely get seriously ill or die from COVID. In fact, if you don't have any underlying comorbidity, that means some underlying chronic illness, you're 99.997% likely to get through it without any problems. And we do know that there are a lot of side effects from the adverse events from this BNT 162b2 vaccine. Now, I say this specifically because this is the EUA version that's been approved by the FDA. It's based on the original Alpha and then the Delta strains of the Wuhan virus. And since Omicron has come through, the chances of having serious illness and death is significantly less than it was originally. And so the question is, why would you want to inject anybody, never mind little children who have a very little risk, minimal risk of having a serious problem from COVID? Why would you inject them with something dangerous like that, which is originally based on the very first COVID virus?
Dr. Flowers, let me ask you, given the information Naomi and the things are putting up, in a normal environment, wouldn't they say that these trials are not working out and they would try something differently? I think what confuses the audience, why do they continue to press on? And why is our regulatory apparatus prepared to let them press on?
Yeah, I mean, this has confused everybody that I've talked to. The volunteers are talking to each other all the time, and they say hi to everybody. While I'm at it, I must point out that there are thousands of volunteers who are all taking part in this, who are all exasperated by the findings and the fact that we found time after time that the Pfizer trials basically don't show any effectiveness for their vaccine, and they don't acknowledge the side effects. In fact, the adjudicators of the trial dismissed virtually every single side effect as not being due to the vaccine. And yet there are papers out now, plenty of scientific journals that have come out with data showing serious adverse effects, in particular myocarditis, but otherwise also blood clots and other outstanding issues. So why would we continue to do it? The FDA, we just don't understand. We've had people watching the hearings, watching them being presented with arguments, including some very good stuff. Even Steve Kirsch has been on and done a verbal response to the committee, and yet they just turn their head and say, well, regardless, we're going to accept this EUA.
Dr. Flowers, we've got a couple of minutes. I would ask James and Naomi if we can hold you through the break. The other thing, I don't understand how I see the top supposedly credentialized medical professionals on MSNBC and CNN every night, from the top schools in the country with the big, long titles underneath it, hammering home safe and effective, and crying crocodile tears that now it's available for children, I guess, is from 5 to 6 months. How could that possibly be? How could all these institutions, I mean, it almost seems like a conspiracy so vast that I think that's what kind of overwhelms people. Your thoughts?
That's correct, Steve. I think if you follow the money, that always gives the answers in the end. But the one thing we do know is whatever they say, it is neither safe nor is it effective. I mean, from an effectiveness point of view, there was a paper out of New York, a CDC paper that showed since Omicron came through that in the 5 to 11-year-old age group, the efficacy of the vaccine was only 31% at the beginning, but after 7 weeks, it had dropped to only 12%. Now, that is well below any standard that the FDA would normally apply for an EUA to a vaccine. So based on those standards alone, I mean, they shouldn't even be considering it.
Dr. Flowers, please stand by. Naomi Wolf's going to stick with us. She's running the Daily Clat's doing this amazing investigation with thousands of people from the War and Posse, lawyers. I think they're now taking it to the next phase. Of course, James Roguski, an independent researcher, has done such a brilliant job in the World Health Assembly, World Health Organization, and now he's rallied people to be at this, at least on Zoom, to watch this, to be part of this FDA tomorrow. Short commercial break. We'll be back in War Room Battleground just a moment.
War Room Battleground with Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, welcome back. James, once again, Roguski, just tell us tomorrow, particularly for the audience that wants to participate in this or at least watch it, can you give us the time? How do people get to your site tonight? How do they get primed for what's going to go on tomorrow, sir?
I certainly want to do that, but I actually want to clear up the understanding because I do understand what's going on. The FDA changed the definition of a vaccine. They changed the rules of engagement with the companies. Please realize that the studies that they will be presenting tomorrow did absolutely nothing to follow any sort of disease lessening. They didn't test cases. They didn't test for severe disease. They did not test for hospitalization. They did not test to see if it prevented death. The FDA has changed the rules because they changed the definition. The only thing that was tested was whether or not an immune response could be measured, not clinical outcomes. When that sinks in, you'll have your understanding. What they have done, and this will blow Naomi's mind, what Pfizer has done is actually seek to double their dose. Rather than Moderna, admitting that they're causing problems, Pfizer did experiments with 60 micrograms. Anybody can go to jamesroguski.substack.com, and as usual, you can call me directly at 310-619-3055.
James, just real quick, what time is actually the event tomorrow, and do they go to your website, or how are you channeling people over there? How do people see it?
I have a link that'll go right to their YouTube link. It's impossible to give a YouTube link with all the letters and stuff. So if you go to my place, there's a link to watch it. It starts at 8:30 Eastern time, 5:30 Pacific time, and pretty much goes all day until 5 p.m. Eastern. I just have a link that makes it real easy right at the top of the page.
Simple. Roguski, you're a warrior. Thank you so much. Fabulous work. James Roguski. The only man still brave enough to give his cell phone number out on War Room. Naomi Wolf. Naomi Wolf. I guess you're now, I know you can't announce things, but I guess you're now to the point that it's time to take at least some of this research and you're going to take it to the next sphere because it's so unbelievable what they're doing. I think people are just sitting there going, this is insanity and it's got to be stopped somehow, or at least confront it. Yeah. Confront it until people get all the information out there and make decisions. Naomi Wolf.
Yeah. I mean, it is stunning, to listen to Dr. Flowers, listen to Mr. Roguski, listen to Toby Rogers, and put the evidence that this is in no way science and not even in any way normal regulatory behavior, front and center. And we should notice that. And that's why I'm always going back to saying it doesn't make sense medically, doesn't make sense scientifically, it doesn't make sense as a regulatory process. It makes sense as an attack on our homeland. It makes sense as an attack on our children. I just want to note, to back up what all of this is bringing to light. Dr. Flowers actually was the person. He's part of our volunteer team. He's an important part of all the incredible volunteers are important, but he's the one who broke the story about the FDA and Pfizer knowing that the injections were causing myocarditis in minors, in 35 minors, and then they plowed ahead anyway with the emergency use authorization in June, and parents weren't informed about it till months later and in a much dialed down way. And he's written a blog, and he's mentioned some of the things, or a finding, he's mentioned some of the things he's found about kids, but some other things that back up the notion that this is not normal science. It isn't science at all. He's found that in the Pfizer trials for little kids, they recruited 4,526 children, of which 3,000 children dropped out before the end of the trial. You've got to ask about that. That's not normal science. When there were 30% more COVID cases in the vaccine group after the first dose than the placebo, Pfizer ignored that data. And then to back up, again, what he identified as increasing COVID in vaccinated children, or waning efficacy. In total, after 2 months, COVID developed twice as much. And this is Dr. Flowers' words, in the vaccinated versus the placebo group, suggesting that there was a higher likelihood that the vaccine was causing severe COVID than the likelihood that it was not. In fact, 12 of the children got COVID twice, 11 of which were in the vaccination group, the vaccination arm. So, he points out that parents should take away from this that the risks vastly outweigh the benefits. And parents should be demanding. Hang
on 1 second. Let me bring Flowers in. You stay right there. Dr. Flowers, what Naomi Wolf just gave us, why doesn't that alone? This is what, look, I'm a layman in the audience, a layman. You're a man of science. Why doesn't that alone just tell people, okay, let's just slow this down. Let's stop it. And let's get some more information and do some more research. Why do I have the best people in the country on TV every day with crocodile tears saying, no, we have to get it into babies that are 6 months old? This is why I think the disconnect is.
Yeah, so let's put it in context. 20 years ago, this would have been stopped immediately. There'd be no question about it. The FDA was very good and very clear in that they were going to protect the population to make sure that any intervention, whether a medical or surgical intervention, for example, was both safe and effective. Now, I think Robert F. Kennedy Jr. outlines it very, very well why this changed under the leadership of Dr. Fauci. And you have to read his book to actually understand there's so much detail there. But it resonates with my experience of having to go before the FDA in the past for medical devices, trying to get those approved, and the amount of data you required. And yet here we are with basically what appears to be junk science, and they're just nodding it, giving it as though someone's given them a tip off. I don't understand it. There is no common sense behind any of the decisions that's been made recently by the FDA.
Dr. Flowers, can you give people where your blog is, your website, your social media, and particularly Substack, if you got that? We want to make sure people are totally up to speed on everything that you're working on.
Yeah, thank you. You can find me everywhere on Chris Flowers, MD. I on both Getter and on Truth. I don't currently have a Substack. I'm way too busy writing reports for Naomi.
Dr. Flower, it's an honor to have you on here, and thank you so much for your help with the group. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Naomi, I got to tell you, this thing is so, and I think what's so disturbing now, it was bad enough before, but now that they've got this maniacal focus, you can see it on TV. They're obsessed. This thing with the under 5 years old, they've even taken a different tone. It's like an obsession. And I'm saying this as a guy who says, hey, I came at this when we started this show a couple of years ago with, a little bit of understanding of biological warfare. And that was about it. I got C's. I got gentleman C's in my military prep school biology class. Okay. From one of the baseball coaches. So there's something wrong here though. That's why we got to bounce, but I need to have, and I know you're going to be updating us every day. How do people go to Daily Clout? How they find, because you've been kind of Cassandra on this from the very beginning, and essentially everything that she's told us has all come to pass. And now there's something deeply disturbing. That's why I was wanting as many people as possible to be watching this FDA situation tomorrow and actually see it live.
Yeah, and parents absolutely need to bring our material, Dr. Flower's latest blog, which is going to be up on our site by this afternoon. All of the reports are on dailyclout.io, but it's up to you guys because MSNBC is going to keep lying to you. The New York Times is going to keep lying. You need to take these reports, Xerox them, literally print them out and distribute them to every parent you know. It is up to you. You can find me on Getter at Dr. Naomi R. Wolf. Also, The Bodies of Others, which is now available again through Amazon and everywhere else, can tell you how this came to be and what you can do about it. And please continue to support us because we are paying the best lawyers in the country, and they're moving ahead in ways I can't yet reveal, but very, very effectively. An important letter went out yesterday. A citizen's petition is on its way. I can't give you more details yet. And you know, with your help, we're able to pay our bills, but we need to keep that going. We're on the offense. I mean, that's the good news, but you have to be the ground troops. It's got to be a multi-front offensive, and it means you need to not be embarrassed, not be ashamed, speak up on behalf of of little kids and babies who can't speak up for themselves.
One of the ways to do that is get The Body of Others. Go to Amazon right now, Barnes & Noble, All Seasons Press, wherever you got to go. We'll have it back up on the site to make sure we push it. You'll see the journey of Naomi Wolf, and it's an incredibly powerful book, inspiring book. Everybody that I've recommended it to, Naomi, absolutely loves it. I think one of the most important books, along with Bobby Kennedy's, of 2022. So great job. And thank you so much for all the work you're doing. Dr. Naomi Wolf.
And Amy Kelly and the
Go ahead.
Amazing. Thank you. No, I just said Amy Kelly and
the whole thing. Yeah.
Volunteers. Amazing. Thank you.
No, it's the incredible job they're doing, just incredible. And the doctors like flowers you got. Okay. Do we have Mike Cassidy up from Mississippi? Okay, Mike Cassidy, you're in a dogfight, sir, tomorrow. You've been in dogfights before. You're a Navy pilot. Talk to us about Mississippi and what the war and posse has to do, brother.
Well, we're in the final stretch, Steve. We got 24 hours left. Well, really, about 18 hours before the polls open, and we're working hard. I'm up in Starkville right now, Mississippi, where Mississippi State is, and just had an event, knocking on doors, getting good response. But, you know, we're just trying to get out on the radio, trying to get our phone calls out. Our website, it's votecassidy.com for donations. But we are on the epicenter of the fight against the establishment. They're putting Kevin McCarthy has put $500,000 against me. A lot of corporate PACs, they've put a little over $500,000 against me. Just in 2 weeks in Mississippi, but we're fighting back hard. The energy's strong, and we're going to do quite well tomorrow on Tuesday.
Mike, what do they have against? Look, I'm a surface warfare officer, and my kid brother's a Navy pilot, so I got my own problems with Navy pilots. Okay, a brown shoe. What do they have? What is the establishment got against a Navy pilot? This is what I don't understand. What's the beef with Mike Cassidy?
Well, the biggest line of attack that they're using against me. They're calling me a carpetbagger because I've spent my entire adult life in the military, in the Navy, and so it's true. Like I'd say it as soon as I make any speech. Everybody knows that I'm not from Mississippi, but I made it my home after flying as an F-18 pilot for several years and being an instructor pilot in Mississippi, and they're trying to use that against me. I saw an ad for my opponent that on one of the doors that I went to, one of the houses. All it said really was, Michael Guest went to Mississippi State. Vote for him. Nothing about him voting for the January 6th Commission. Nothing about giving $1 billion to Planned Parenthood, $53 billion to Ukraine, or just being a rhino. He can't run on his record. We're running on my America First platform, and the fact that we are sending a America First fighter to D.C. to take on the rhino establishment up in the Capitol.
By the way, not that we know, I mean, who could not vote for Top Gun in the summer of 2022? Mike Cassidy, how do people track you? How they track you down for the next couple of days? What's your social media? What's the website for the campaign?
Yeah, so our Twitter is Vote Cassidy. Our Facebook, Michael Cassidy for Congress, and then website is votecassidy.com.
Mike Cassidy, fight on, brother. Talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks, Steve. Looking forward to it.
Let me bring in one of the biggest fighters and greatest patriot we have in this country, 81-year-old Steve Stern from the Flag Shirt Company. Okay, it's the run up to Independence Day, 4th of July. We want to make sure this is the biggest week in the history of the company. I want to talk about that and the importance of getting out there and showing the flag, Steve. But then I got to talk to you about these volunteers that you and Schultz are energizing throughout the country. First off, talk to me. How do people get shirts? How do they celebrate and commemorate the 4th of July?
Well, number one, just let me tell you that last week's show on Friday was the biggest day we ever had in the history of the company. The Patriots, the War Room Posse, they came through. We got thousands of orders from your show, John Fredericks. Over the weekend, we came in at 6 o'clock in the morning. We shipped everything. Fred took a lot of the stuff to the post office. So everything went out on Saturday. That means that everybody's going to get their stuff to look spiffy for 4th of July. So tomorrow, anybody that orders today will get it out tomorrow, and you'll have it for the 4th of July. We guarantee the shipment. We have, as you see, I'm wearing one of our number one shirts that we just got in for reorders, and our great hat. We have a tremendous cowboy hat that is one of our leading styles, because everybody calls me and they tell me, well, what's the best style? What do we get? Well, I said, we got zillions of styles. They all look great, but they always say, well, which is the best? So I came up with that one, and everybody seems to love it. We had a great design on it.
First off,
if people want to get anything,
where do they go?
Just go to
Steve, where do they go to
www.flagshirt.com. You can call me at Stern 1054 at AOL at 954-318-6902.
Is this where they see? How do they go and find out all the products you got? I want to make sure people can go to one site and see all the styles, all the sizes, everything you've got from shirts to hats, all of it.
www.theflagshirt.com. Everything that you'll ever want to get to look great for the 4th of July. We love our country. We want everybody to be looking great at a parade. I'll be at one of the local parades here in Weston. We're going to have hundreds of people there. We're going to love our flag. We're going to show how we love our country, because, the Democrats don't really love us. For some reason, they want to be socialist. They don't love the flag. We all see what's going on. But you know what? The Republicans are stepping up. I got to tell you that from all the calls that I got, people are going crazy to get involved. In the two states you wouldn't think they'd get involved in, New York and California, that's where I'm getting the most calls. So that is terrific, because a guy named Fred Vanderhoff, one of our guys on our team, has been calling me, and we've been talking back and forth, and people all over California. San Diego, I just had dinner with a girl who's from San Diego, just came out here to visit a friend of mine, telling me it's just like unbelievable what's happening. They're taking over. A lot of Democrats are changing parties. We see today, I saw on your program earlier, somebody reported that a lot of the independents are switching over to the Republican Party. So this is a great thing. I mean, we just want to get people elected from the school board all the way up. We want to present this, and we want to keep people going. Tonight, right after the show, I'm going right to a meeting where we have our executive meeting tonight. We're going to sign in anywhere from 50 to 100 new people, but we're doing something a little bit different this time. I made 800 phone calls to make sure everybody shows up. And what we're going to do is we got a table set up. We're going to actually ask them what they want to do, because there's a precinct committee, man. And you go to www.precinctstrategy.com. You can go online to Amazon and get Dan's book, and it tells you everything that's going on. You can go to his site, and on his site, he just put on, we have a guy that's really helping us with an app, Votify Now. Fantastic what it's doing. And we have another guy that's really helping us. This is an amazing story. This gentleman on yournews.com is going to hire 100,000 citizen reporters, and he's trying to get all conservative people. And what they're going to do is they're going to report everything that's happening in your little county. They go by zip code. He's a conservative in Palm Beach, and he's doing a phenomenal job. Another thing that's happening, we have a great leader in Palm Beach, Michael Barnett. He's having a training session July 16th. He's invited the Palm Beach people, the Miami people, and the Broward people, and they're going to train people on how to be poll watchers, poll workers, what they've got to do to turn this country around. Because, Broward, Miami, and Palm Beach are kind of Democratic, but many, many people are changing. A lot of our people are running. It's always a tough job, but we see as we go out door to door, that people are wearing their patriotic shirts. They're getting involved. We speak to a lot of independents, and they tell us, hey, we don't know what's going on, but the gas prices being what they are and the food prices, we go to Publix and it's double the price. And, people see what the Democrats are doing to this country. So if somebody wants to get their shirt, go to www.theflagshirt.com. We'll get it out tomorrow for you. I don't care how big the order is. We love the posse. They have done a wonderful job in helping us. Like I said last week, the biggest week we ever had, and everything was shipped. Action, action, action.
Steve Stern, you're a hero and a patriot. Look forward to having you on and having you on our going to do a ton of specials this week on the 4th of July of Independence Day and how we had to not just get the Declaration of Independence, but then fight to keep it. Steve Stern, you're a patriot and a hero. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you, Steve.
Action, action, action. Bring in my co-host, Maureen Bannon. Mo, once again, it happens. I gotta get to your stuff. We're gonna have to carve out some time tomorrow. But don't give your dad stink eye. give your social media. At least we'll get some follows on Instagram. I love you, honey. You're very. People should know Captain Bannon is the most patient daughter in the world. Honey, give your social media so people can track you down. We got to get those getters. If you start posting more on Getter, you'll get your Getter numbers up. I keep telling you that.
Oh, I'm working on posting as much as you do. I'm slowly getting there. But you can find me on Getter and Twitter at Maureen_Bannon and also on Instagram at Real Maureen Bannon. And I'm covering a range of topics on all my social media platforms.
Social media, tomorrow I want to get you on. I'm really concerned since we had Naomi people on here today on tomorrow morning show, Mo, to talk about the June 30, the cutoff. I think it's National Guard. There's 40,000 Army National Guard that do not have the vaccine. 14,000 said we're not going to do it. They start getting, I guess, dismissed starting on Thursday. Close of business. We'll drill down more on that tomorrow morning. Want everybody 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Be here. These are shows you can't miss now. We're hitting it every day. Okay. The Army of the Awakened, your field headquarters here at the War Room. See you tomorrow morning, 10 a.m.